Hi everyone, it's Rosie from Talking About BPD. Welcome to my online book launch. I can't believe I'm finally here. It's finally the day to launch my brand new book, Talking About BPD, a stigma-free guide to a calmer, happier life with borderline personality disorder, known as BPD. Thank you so much for joining me. It's the first time that I've ever gone live before, so it's a day of first for me. First day to launch a book, and first day to go live on YouTube or any other platform. So yeah, thank you so much for joining. I really want this to be an interactive kind of live, like an interactive like chat. I don't want to just be monologuing for the whole time. So feel free to let me know any thoughts, comments, questions in the chat. And also, if you can't hear me at any point, then just write something in the chat so that I can speak louder or control my dog, because I've got my dog next to me as well. So hopefully she's going to be quiet. Someone's saying hi in the chat. That's really nice. Thank you for joining me. Julia, thank you. So yeah, I think I'll just dive straight in really. And just say a little bit about what I'm going to do tonight. So the structure of the event, I'm going to just say a few words about the book, just in case anyone's curious about what the book's about, why I wrote it, and who it's for. Then I'm going to read some of my favourite sections from the book. I'm not going to read too much, but just, a few little bits and bobs so that you can get a flavour and a feel for the book. Then I'm going to open up to a Q&A session. So this is where I would love to see loads of people writing in the chat any questions that you've got for me. And then finally, I'll just wrap up. And I've also got a few thank yous to say, because honestly, the support that I've had on social media just has been absolutely phenomenal, not just for this book, but just generally since I started blogging 7-8 years ago now. And none of this would have been possible without the support of people on social media, as well as numerous other people who I'm going to say thank you to as well. So yeah, just before I begin as well, I just want to say that some difficult topics might crop up today, things like self-harm, suicide, stuff like that. So if it's going to be difficult for you, obviously, please take a break. Yeah, so why did I write this book? I wrote this book because honestly, I felt like I didn't have a book that I needed when I was first diagnosed with BPD. Around 7 years ago, when I was diagnosed, I was just hungry for information. I went to the library, I went to bookshops, and I pretty much got my hands on every single book that I could find about BPD, and nothing really brought me comfort. In fact, quite a lot of the books made me feel so much worse about myself. They brought my confidence down. They made me feel incapable and useless. And I just didn't see myself reflected in any of the books. Or the books were so academic and dense and kind of wordy that I couldn't understand them when I was feeling so upset. So yeah, my psychiatrist said to me, Rosie, can you recommend a book about BPD for her patients? And I said, no, because I just don't know what to recommend, because so many books are so stigmatizing. So here we are. This is why I wrote the book. It's for people like the people who I interact with daily on social media, who want something to bring them comfort, to help them feel good about themselves, but also give those coping tips and some strategies as well, because I have learned a lot over the years on how to manage. So yeah, a lot. And the other question that people ask me a lot is who is this book for? And really, this book is primarily for people who either have a diagnosis of BPD or who think they might have it but have struggled to get diagnosed, or their family and friends. So kind of like a secondary audience in the family and friends, and also health professionals who want that sort of insider knowledge. That's not to say this book is representative of all people with BPD. I don't think it would be fair to say that. I never claim to be a spokesperson. It is my experience. Lots of people have told me that my experience resonates with theirs, which obviously helps me a lot to know that I'm not alone. And people have told me that the book is comforting and the blog is comforting. which is great, obviously. Yeah, so Liz is writing in the chat. Yeah, there's so many books that seem to come under the heading of here's how to deal with someone with BPD because they're awful. Exactly. Yeah. There's this like attitude that permeates so much of the writing and books about BPD and like films and YouTube videos that paints a picture of people with BPD as like horrible people, manipulative, attention seeking, drama queen, like how to cope with or how to survive or how to get away from. And it just makes you feel so rubbish about yourself. Alicia's written, I would for sure recommend this to professionals as well as friends and family of those with BPD. Yeah, thank you. Alicia's helped me out with this book, and it is really reassuring to know that this book is not just useful for people with BPD but also professionals. So thank you. Hi, Jennifer saying hi from Dundee. Nice one with the book launch received. Thank you. I was a bit nervous before I clicked live because I've never done it before. So thank you for joining, Jennifer. And thank you, everybody. Let me just see. So, yeah, what can you expect to find inside this book? Quite a few different things. So, bits of my experience combined with coping techniques that are drawn from dialectical behaviour therapy, which is known as DBT. There is a whole chapter on how to talk about BPD, how to have conversations. There's a whole chapter on stigma and how to manage stigma because, as people have mentioned in the chat, stigma and discrimination, unfortunately, is just huge. And the way I see it is that BPD, it's not just BPD that's difficult to manage, it's people's attitudes towards BPD. It's kind of like a twofold difficulty. And sometimes a stigma is actually worse than what you're going through. It's like a double layer. So this book, a common thread weaving through this whole book is stigma and discrimination, because as I said in the preface, I couldn't write a book about BPD without addressing stigma, because my experience of this condition has been completely shaped by stigma, which is really sad when you come to think about it. I don't think it should be like that. Laura's put, hi, Rosie. She's received the book and started reading it. She likes the tone and language. Oh, and it's helping her understand how people with BPD feel. Oh, thanks, Laura. That means a lot to me, actually, because it can be difficult sometimes for friends and family to understand the intense emotions and like fear of abandonment and all the different experiences associated with BPD. So it's nice to hear that, actually, because friends can play such a key role in like helping, actually, and just having people who understand just makes days so much easier. Oh my gosh, I'm having so many comments in the chat, which is amazing. I'm definitely gonna come back to the chat in a second. Yeah, so another chapters that you're going to find in the book, if you want to read it, is or if you've already got your copy, is a chapter on treatments, so like different therapies, and also a whole big chapter, actually my longest chapter, on DBT, so dialectical behaviour therapy, like based coping techniques, because I know that it's so difficult for people to access therapies. Like, unfortunately, waiting times can be so long, or barriers can just be in the way for some people. Like, accessing professional help is just so difficult. Like, I've been on really long waiting lists in my life and it is horrendous. So I wanted to write something practical and useful. So there is a long chapter in here with different coping techniques. And they're not just like generic coping techniques that you find for like depression and anxiety. I'm not saying that any of those are bad, but I'm saying I have written this chapter with BPD in mind, because so often the generic coping tips that you read online don't actually work for BPD because the emotions are so intense. Yeah, and another chapter is about calmer and happier relationships, which is a big one, I know, for lots of people with BPD. Mostly I'm talking about romantic relationships, but not just that. Also family, friends, work, children. Yeah, I'm just going to take a quick look in the chat because this chat is going like lightning. I'm actually it's really nice to get so much interaction on here. I've got a fellow teacher with BPD that I've helped so much. Lots of people tell you that you shouldn't teach because of diagnosis. but your blog reassured you that you can. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's so stigmatizing when people assume what a person can or can't do based on a condition or something that they're diagnosed with. Like, I just think it's so discriminatory. And I'm a teacher, as you know. Like, I like to think I'm quite good at it. I get positive feedback. I actually think that my BPD helps me be a good teacher, because I've learned so much thanks to my BPD, and I wouldn't be who I am without being a sensitive and emotional person. So yeah, my heart goes out to anyone who is like limited, who is told that they have a limit simply because of their BPD. Like, I don't, or is told that they can't do something or they shouldn't be allowed to do something. Like, it really hurts me to hear that, and I think it's just completely unfair. Right, so I think that I might just move on to read a little bit from the book, and then I'll come back to the chat, because I'm so amazed by how many comments. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, so the first part that I'm going to read is a little bit from the beginning of the book, from the chapter called What is BPD? And it's a section called What does my BPD look like? When I was diagnosed with BPD in 2014, I met all 9 criteria. I have enjoyed having high scores when it comes to assessments, but this one felt like a different kind of full marks. My main difficulty was fear of abandonment. For many years, I was so distressed by the idea of people I loved leaving me that I would think about suicide and have urges to self-harm. Rarely a day went by during my adolescence and my early 20s when I didn't spend at least an hour sobbing in my bed or on the floor. Each episode, as I called them, was excruciating. They would leave me with headaches, puffed up eyes, and marks where my fingernails had pierced my skin. The agony of my episodes was so great that I often thought they would kill me. In fact, the pain during an episode felt so overwhelming that in that moment, death seemed preferable. The most confusing aspect of my episodes, though, was how suddenly they came on. Not being able to predict when an episode would arise, I neither trusted my moods nor felt safe in my own body. The speed at which my emotions would plummet and then skyrocket felt impossible to cope with. Even though the walls of my bedroom or bathroom were usually the only audience for my episodes, I wondered whether I was inventing them simply for dramatic effect. That's not to say my episodes happened independently of other people, though. Although I usually managed to suppress my episodes until I was alone, they were generally linked to feeling rejected or abandoned by somebody I liked or cared about. This could be the smallest of social interactions, a text without a reply, a pause in a conversation, someone glancing away. I wonder if anyone can relate to that. I know when I post about this sort of experience on social media, people say like, yes, that's me, like I get that too. And it is so difficult to manage. I'm just going to look at the chat. Liz is saying that Liz can't wait to read it as my kids get older. I get scared of what will happen to them if people know or find out their mum has BPD because of the stigma. Yeah. It honestly, it breaks my heart that people like yourself worry about the judgment like that. I'm just hoping that one day we get to this place in society where people don't see people with BPD as just manipulative or dangerous. I do write about this in the book because although I'm not a parent, I have this fear as a teacher as well, because I work with children with special needs and disabilities, and a big part of my role is caring for like vulnerable children and families. And it's something that I do very well, but I have worried in the past what my managers are going to think of me if they find out. My managers do actually know now, and they have been really supportive, but I know that not everybody is. So yeah, I do share that fear, and I think that from my perspective, people with BPD can just be so amazing parents and such amazing like people in caring and helping roles, because generally people with BPD have a lot of empathy and a lot of care to give and a lot of insight as well. I'm going to go to a second part of my book that I'm going to read. I'm going to read a bit. about reframing the stereotypes. And that's a key theme through this book because, yeah, there are way too many stereotypes about BPD. You know, people with BPD can't be good teachers or can't be good parents or can't be in happy relationships or they cause drama or they're difficult patients or they're difficult at work. So I'll read you this part. Reframing the stereotypes. It has been 7 years since I was diagnosed with BPD. In the last few years, I have reframed the stereotypes. I use this list whenever stigma bites to remind myself that I am someone with intense emotions, not a stereotype. So, false. People with BPD are attention seekers and will do anything to get attention. True. The truth is, people with BPD often experience intense distress. It's only natural that a person's behaviour will reflect how distressed they feel inside. So, another myth. People with BPD are manipulative. They use dishonest tactics to try and control others. That's a huge myth. The truth is, people with BPD are not inherently manipulative. Manipulation involves dishonesty. Therefore, if someone has honest intentions, they are not being manipulative. Okay, myth. A person with BPD will always have BPD. They will never feel better. The truth is, people with BPD can and do feel better over time. Accessing treatment can be a struggle, but whilst you are pursuing or waiting for support, there are things you can do to help manage your emotions and make life calmer. And I do describe some of them in one of the chapters. Myth. People with BPD are difficult patients. Honestly, this myth just grates on me. It really grates on me. The phrase difficult patient says more about a service than the patient. It reflects a service's inability to meet a patient's needs rather than anything about the patient. It is a very unprofessional judgment. Myth. People with BPD are dangerous. The truth is, there is no evidence at all to suggest that people with BPD are dangerous. The vast majority of people with BPD are caring people who try hard to avoid hurting others. Myth. People with BPD cannot work in helping professions or care for others because they are too damaged. So that's a bit like what Liz mentioned in the chat about being a parent as well, and the other person who mentioned about being a teacher. Like it's difficult for people like you and me who work in these roles and who are good at these roles. Myth. Truth. The first effective therapy for people with BPD was designed by Dr. Linhan, who had experienced the symptoms of BPD herself. There are many people with BPD who are skilled at looking after others as part of work or family life. Myth. People with BPD are incapable of having happy relationships. Truth. The truth is, it is perfectly possible to have BPD and have happy relationships. Many people with this condition enjoy fulfilling relationships and can be great friends, partners, family members, and parents. Thank you. I'm just going to have a look at the chat and see what people are saying. Blaze is saying that Blaze is halfway through the book, started reading today. Thank you. It's so great to finally have a book that debunks the stigma. Oh, thank you, Blaze. Thank you for all your support as well over the years. And Blaze is saying, I especially love the part where you describe how to talk about BPD on a safe environment. Oh, thank you, Blaze. Kathleen from Canada, hello. I can't wait to read this book. I should be receiving it on the 28th. Pre-ordered it a month ago. Well, thank you, Kathleen. You are such a wonderful person. Thank you for making this book. Thank you. I don't always feel like a wonderful person. If you have BPD, you will know how quickly like self-image can change. So I don't always feel it. So thank you. That's really, really kind. Amy's saying, I've had awful experiences with stigma from healthcare professionals. Occupational health didn't want me to continue training to be a therapist because of my diagnosis of BPD. Oh dear. I mean, stigma is alive and well. That honestly, as I've said before, it just breaks my heart that people like you, Amy, are getting discriminated against. It's just not right. It's just absolutely not right at all. And Amy said Amy wants to say thank you for writing this book. Thank you, Amy. Yeah, Liz has made a really good point, actually. I would actually much rather deal with a health professional with lived experience because they get it. Yeah, I actually feel the same as you, Liz. And sometimes I find non-health professionals more understanding than health professionals, because sometimes the health professionals have read textbooks that contain stigma. Not all. I've had some amazing professionals, like amazing, but some of them less so. And I've discussed that at great length in my book. The good, the bad, and the ugly in here actually is in this book. So yeah, I've talked quite a lot. Has anyone got any questions that they want me to ask? Any questions? Please feel free to type in the chat. I would love to hear them. If not, I will. Oh, someone's not. Oh, Liz is nodding. I know. I wish I could see your faces actually, but I didn't. I just decided to do YouTube Live. I didn't do the whole Zoom thing. I'm zoomed out, to be honest. Well, Liz, if you want to type your question, you are welcome to. Amy's saying the NHS don't tend to value lived experience as much, unfortunately. But amazing point, Liz. I know, if only lived experience was valued as much as, a degree, because lived experience teaches so much. And I do say in this book that peer support is so valuable. Like peer support, especially through my friend Catherine. Shout out to Catherine from My Illustrated Mind. You might know her from social media, but we give each other peer support. And honestly, like, it's, for me, invaluable, because she knows it from the inside. I haven't got any questions in the chat. Maybe I'll just read a little bit more then. And if you've got any questions in the meantime, please put them in the chat, because I would love to try and answer them if I can. Maybe if anyone's got any questions about how to write a book, because we need more books about BPD. Maybe some of you want to write books as well. Like, please ask away. Oh, Jennifer saying, I work for the NHS and I'm too scared to tell anyone yet. But is that self-stigmatizing? It's a good question. I wouldn't want you to blame yourself at all, Jennifer. Like, I feel like you should say as much as you want to say to whoever you want to say. Like, you have to feel comfortable and safe. And I do have a chapter called Talking About BPD, and it has a section about how to weigh up the pros and cons of talking in different situations. So I hope that could help you. Julia, I hope I'm saying your name right. Julia, can you please show how the book looks on the inside? Yes, of course. So here we have the cover. Here we have the contents. Oh, maybe it's coming up backwards for you. Does it come up like reverse, like a mirror? And then here's just a sample page. So that's how the text looks. It's a fairly standard book. Like, I have to say, the paper feels quite nice. It's a pretty normal book, but I have to say, I am in love with the cover. It's designed by Cara McHale, and I am in love with it because so many covers of books about BPD have got these like zombie type pictures on them, or broken glass, or something smashed, or people who are like screaming, or people who are doing like and I'm just so grateful that there's no like head clutching or like ghostly zombie sort of horror theme, because so often they're like books that are black with like red writing that looks like blood, and it just doesn't make me feel good. Oh, Jennifer's saying lol, it's not backwards. Okay, good. It looks backwards to me. Yeah, and also there are different sort of boxes as well to make it easier to read, because I know the publishers have worked really hard on that. If there are no more questions for now, I'm going to read a little bit more, and I'm going to read something that I hope is helpful for you. Oh, sorry. Oh, your name is just Julia. Okay, the space got me confused, but I've had a long day at work, so I am being a bit silly. All right. So, oh yeah. Oh, here, right. This is a section about stigma, right? And maybe some of you will relate to it. The nicely dressed lady. I have been misunderstood by people who were supposed to understand more times than I can remember. One psychiatrist used a hand gesture indicating wrist cutting when she asked whether I self-harm and called out, "Don't do anything silly," as I left her consulting room. On another occasion, a mental health nurse told me that I shouldn't feel suicidal because I have a loving family, friends, a job, and beauty. You have it all, so don't waste your time feeling like this. Wow, if only emotional distress was so simple. If only the love of my family, partner, and friends, my fulfilling career, my degree certificate, and my shiny hair made me immune to emotional distress. My self awareness, intelligence, and how put together I am have been used as excuses for why I don't need help. At the same time, though, I have been deemed as too difficult, risky, or challenging to support. Sometimes I have felt that as a person with BPD, I just cannot win. Why have I spent hours planning my clothes and makeup for an appointment with my new psychiatrist? Will blusher and a bright dress make me look too put together to be offered help? Sometimes I have felt like wearing something a bit dirty, just so the report doesn't state, "The young lady presented with a neat appearance and arrived well dressed in a floral skirt." I know appearance can be an indicator of distress for some people, but I look the same no matter how I feel. My colourful necklace is just my colourful necklace. I would prefer it if professionals stopped using my clothes and makeup as stop using my clothes and makeup to make clinical judgments. Oh, and whilst I'm on the topic, telling me I'm too nice to have BPD is not a compliment. Okay, thank you for listening. So Blaze is asking, how long did you work on the book? What were the hardest parts? What did you enjoy the most? Okay, I'll start with the first part. So how long did you work on the book? Well, the first conversation I had with the book, had with my publisher, Jessica Kingsley, was in November 2019, so almost 2 years ago. And it was after that conversation that I started planning the book and writing the book. And I wrote the book I'd say quite quickly. In a few months, I wrote the book. Maybe 3 months, I wrote the whole book. Then, of course, like editing happened, and I sat there and I reread it and I redrafted sentences and I redrafted paragraphs, and I didn't do a whole rewrite of the book because the book that I'd written had the structure that I wanted, but I had to kind of like tidy up the writing a lot myself. And then it went through my editor, Jane Evans, and then more copy editors at JKP Publishers. So yeah, and Blaze is also asking, what were the harder parts? That's a good question. You know what? I honestly, I loved writing this book. It has brought me so much comfort myself writing this book because I finally feel like I have something that explains my experience, and I kind of feel like I don't have to answer now because I have it here, and it's excuse me, and it's so like it's contained in a book. And I've had the blog for around 7 years, but it's so nice to have a physical thing, an object that just encases my feelings and my experiences. And the fact that it helps other people is really the icing on the cake for me. I mean, it feels really good that it resonates with people. It helps me a lot. But what was the hardest part? The hardest part was probably just making sure that I'd referenced everything correctly. You know, I was worried that I'd forget to reference something properly or put the wrong page number in. But luckily, I had a lot of help from my publishers and my editor, Jane, as well. What did I enjoy most out of the whole experience? I don't know. I have enjoyed all of it. I'd say I am enjoying now that people can read it. It does make me happy. I don't think it's a vanity thing. I think it's just genuinely nice when people message me and say that they're enjoying it. Like, because I've enjoyed writing it. It's so nice that people enjoy reading it too. Okay. Illustrated Mind. Hi. Just figured out how to write in the chat. Thanks for the shout out. Oh, Peer support and friendship, so important. Yeah, peer support, it's the best. Thank you so much. Everyone should check out my Illustrated Mind on social media as well. Right, let me just do a time check because time is flying. Oh, thank you for so many lovely comments, so many people. Julie is saying, I didn't tell my mother either. I'm afraid she'll blame herself. Yeah, I think that I think that a lot of people will relate to that. Actually, it is a difficult topic. This book does go into the causes of BPD. How does it develop? Not the causes, but how does it develop? And it does talk about things like attachments. And I'm not judgmental in the book at all. I don't think. I've deliberately tried to not be judgmental. And I do talk about trauma and things like that. And I've really tried hard to be inclusive of everybody. This book's definitely not about waggling the finger at anyone at all. Apart from people who write stigmatizing books, there may be a bit of finger waggling to those people. Yeah, I think that I'm gonna end with a section that hopefully is gonna make you feel good. It might not make you feel good, but if it does, that's definitely a bonus. Celebrating positives. Without a doubt, people with BPD are often exceptionally caring, thoughtful, and understanding individuals. On the many occasions that I have been in crisis, my empathy and concern for others have fled the scene, along with my usual etiquette and social norms. Yet, the vast majority of the time, I empathise so naturally that I barely notice I'm doing it. Because people with this condition know that a small act of support can make a huge difference, they are often especially generous with their time, skills, and emotions. When I was suicidal and staff members at the cafe smiled as they handed the coffee to me, it made me feel that maybe, just maybe, things could be okay. A tiny action felt so much to me in that moment of despair. As this book acknowledges, many people with BPD know stigma and discrimination intimately. As a result, it's hard to find a person with BPD who will judge someone or something before they know the full details. Those who have been misunderstood and misrepresented are unlikely to invalidate others' thoughts and feelings because they know just how much that hurts. Most, if not all, people with BPD have huge amounts of strength and determination. A lot of the time, these qualities are shown quietly or privately, which means they can go unnoticed by others. When I graduated from university in 2014, everyone generously congratulated me on my degree. However, I felt that it wasn't the academic success that needed celebrating as much as the fact that I had survived so many days and nights of feeling suicidal. Each day I had got out of bed to go to a lecture or the library after crying until the small hours the previous night took a force of will. Asking for help after being repeatedly dismissed or mocked required tenacity. In the last few years, therapists have praised me for my hard work when I have been able to implement new coping techniques. My response has always been to thank them, but I explain that I actually showed much more determination in the past when I didn't know the coping techniques, but nevertheless made enormous efforts just to stay alive. I might not seem courageous, but I know it is one of my defining qualities. Bravery means staring fear in the face, acknowledging the risk, feeling the terror, and then doing what needs doing regardless. Each time I have told someone the truth about my BPD, bared my hurts in therapy, stood up to professionals who stigmatized me and took up space when I didn't feel worthy, I did it thanks to courage. And by the way, just as an aside, I haven't always stood up for myself. Sometimes it's been way too difficult. I'm not saying that you should do that all the time. Sometimes it's just too tricky. Bravery was not giving a speech in front of hundreds of people when I won a My Media Award. Courage is in everyday decisions and actions. People with BPD are often courageous because no matter how frightened they are feeling, each day they do things that terrify them. Speaking to someone, asking a question, looking for help. I encourage you to notice your many strengths and to acknowledge the positive qualities you bring to relationships and life in general. And yeah, that's the final part that I'm going to read from the main part of the book, because yeah, I just really and truly want people with BPD to recognize their positive qualities, because generally speaking, there are just so many and so many useful ones. Liz is saying sometimes it's too exhausting to stand up for yourself and correct others. Yeah, exactly. I totally get that. And I think it's unfair that people with BPD in vulnerable positions are the ones who need to stand up and advocate. Like, sometimes you feel like, just give me a break. Like, I'm going through this and you want me to, fight my corner as well. Sometimes it's just exhausting. Jennifer's saying, maybe your next book could be a collection of stories of different people from all the walks of life with BPD, tackling stigma one story at a time with another awesome cover. That's a nice idea. Yeah, maybe. I think I will do another book, but I don't know what it's going to be. But I do like that idea, because it is so important that we hear more voices of people with BPD, from, like you say, from all walks of life, from all backgrounds, all genders, all ethnicities. And it would be good to have a multiplicity of voices talking about BPD, because I'm just one voice. Please write your own books. I think that we need more voices. Okay, time is ticking on, and I definitely need to wrap up in a moment. But before I do, I really need to say, if there's any more Q&A questions, drop them in the chat. Please do. Like, I don't want anyone to be left with a question that I haven't answered. Drop it in the chat for me and I'll see it. But I do have to say so many thank yous. Thank you to my publisher, Jessica Kingsley, who have taken me every step of the way and have made this book possible. They've taken it on and they've really backed me on this. So thank you so much. And thank you, Jane, my editor, my senior editor, mental health. Thank you. Thank you as well to all the people that I have acknowledged in my, I think, 7 pages of acknowledgements. I actually felt embarrassed when I saw how many acknowledgements I got, because I always feel embarrassed about things like that. And then I thought, no, why am I feeling embarrassed about thanking people? I should be happy. Like, surely it's a nice thing to thank people. And Blaze, I've just remembered, that was the most difficult part of my book to write. I was crying for days about the acknowledgements, and I was so worried that I was going to miss someone or say something like that. That was the hard part. I had so much BPD through writing my acknowledgements. I had fear of abandonment through writing that. It really was really challenging. But I just want to read this section of the acknowledgements, because it is aimed at the people. It's aimed at you who have joined me here on the live stream. Like, this bit that I'm reading, I am reading it out to you as individuals. From acknowledgements. When I started my blog and social media talking about BPD in 2014, I never dreamed it would resonate so deeply with so many people. It is overwhelming to think about how many of you feel seen and validated by my writing and videos, and what's more, reciprocate by giving so much of yourselves to me in return. And I'm seeing that already here today, like people sharing so much, sharing really personal things. And it is I don't want to say the word humbling because it sounds a bit cringy, but it is a humbling thing that people give so much of themselves to me. I want to thank every individual who has commented or tweeted me with words of connection and encouragement. Your cheerleading helped me navigate agonizing shame and muster more courage than I ever knew I had. Without all of your support, I would never have experienced the solace, fulfillment, connections, and opportunities that Talking About BPD has brought to my life. This book only exists because of you. I hope that reading this book brings you as much comfort, validation, and self-affirmation as writing it gave me. Thank you. I think I'm going to leave the live stream there. But thank you so much, everybody, for your absolutely gorgeous feedback. Thank you. And if there's something in the chat that I haven't responded to, then I'm going to try and tweet it or something. Don't worry, I won't say your names or anything but I'm going to try and write about it or tweet about it so that I can give you an answer. Okay, I'm going to go now. I need to go and eat something because I haven't yet eaten since I got home from work. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for being so great in the chat, interactive and everything. Thank you. And yeah, thank you so much. Bye.